Basically what it is the long wave signals all the way down to the actual ones that you can audibly hear without translation, which are around 8 or 10 kilocycles, all propagate inside of the Earth. The high frequency short wave signals all utilize the ionosphere. So those signals are transmitting inside the ionosphere. In other words, you consider the Earth inside a hollow shell of electricity. See, everything past the ionosphere conducts electricity, all the way to the sun. There is no such thing as empty space. Space is too big and there's too much stuff floating around. It all turns out to be just as good as electrical conductor as anything. Just everything's got to be giant.
So an empty vacuum.
So then you got the atmosphere. The atmosphere has no conductivity, but the thing's only, 1/64 of an inch thick if you're thinking about the Earth. Yeah. And then you have the Earth, and that conducts again. So we live inside this Earth ionosphere capacitor, and that's why all the lightning and everything else all gets cooked up, because you got this insulating band, and you got the billions of volts of the sun, and whatever billions of volts in the Earth, and everything is all the flux is stuck in this little band, like a capacitor. And the lightning is that flux getting out of control, getting stirred up by storm clouds and stuff, and then all of a sudden you got giant sparks everywhere.
Are you saying having more man-made RF in the air is causing more lightning?
No, I didn't say anything like that at all. Man-made RF has nothing to do with it. It just bounces around in it.
But the point
Unless
is...
you turn it up too high. Like they're trying to do with the HAARP. They're trying to stimulate an artificial aurora. That's the purpose of the project, is to stimulate an artificial aurora. That's why they only fire it up during solar flares.
Why? To collect power?
Yeah, I think they're expecting an energy back wave.
How big?
Oh, I don't know. They don't talk about that stuff.
How much
It's
power?
an HF device. It operates anywhere between 4 and 28 megacycles.
So it's really a power plant of some kind.
That's what's been suggested. It's no weather control, it's no weapon, there's nothing to do with Tesla there at all, even in the most remote form. There's nothing there that has any connection with Tesla whatsoever.
Really?
Yeah, at all.
So it just collects...
So all that stuff that's been written about the HAARP, other than Jerry Vassilatos' material, is all disinformation to make money.
So no sinister government plot, just disinformation.
No. Now China's got something going right now that I'd be more worried about. It's jamming all the bands.
What is it?
They have their own HAARP now. But nobody seems to want to talk about it. It's loud, and it's on all the time. It's real pestilent. They have no regard for other services. The HAARP will not transmit on primary services like aircraft, aviation, and all that type of stuff. The HAARP deliberately is not on those frequencies. You will not hear the HAARP on ham radio band because they know there would be an outroar. But the Chinese don't care. So now the whole telegraph band on 40 meters is jammed out every morning by these giant multi-megawatt 50 microsecond pulses.
Is the China HAARP stronger than the American HAARP?
It's like they're all like the woodpecker was the first one of these. It had nothing to do with Tesla. It had nothing to do with ELF. Beard himself famous. Big lies, disinformation, false attributions to Tesla. It's nothing to do with that at all. Nobody really knows what it's for. They figured it was some kind of radar. And it just plagued the entire HF spectrum. They did not care whose frequency it was. Then it went away. That was like solar cycle 22. Then solar cycle 23, we ended up with the HAARP.
American.
Yeah. Now solar cycle 24, we got China HAARP. It's all over the place and on all the time. It's a complete
T94 control from
What do you think it's for?
I have no idea. At Landers, I had all the equipment to analyze it. It was the HAARP is too. It's a type of pulsed FM signal, and it occurred in spectral blocks of like 50 kilocycles wide. And it was pulsed in like 50 microsecond pulses, if I remember right. I didn't really write it all down, but it made it so that I couldn't talk to any of the people I normally talk to. They had no business doing that in the amateur radio band. And then it started also jamming out Coast Guard signals.
So you think it's an attack, a radio attack?
I have no idea. It's just if everyone's all worked up about the HAARP, why aren't they talking about that? That's my point. You know, my point is all the real stuff that's going on, you don't even hear about. All you hear about is what's not going on.
So everything.
So I could pick all that up. That place was like the FCC. I was on the phone to the FCC and the government all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
Giving them information.
Information about sources of interference and signals that weren't operating properly. The National Weather Service, FCC.
So you were helping to protect American communications at Land.
I was the FCC, because none of those agencies are in business anymore. It's just all politics and money. No one's taking care of anything. I was hearing all kinds. I was hearing foreign troops operating illegally on radios inside the United States bound borders. Mexican troops. I would get these phantom signals. You know, some transmitting station wasn't built right, and their transmitters would intermodulate, and they produced frequencies that they weren't even transmitting.
But they weren't on American
You had to have spectrum analyzers in order to find this stuff because the frequencies are so far apart. You had to try to find out which spectral lines were simultaneous. I had spectrum analyzers that covered whole 1 megacycle blocks or more of the HF spectrum. This stuff cost like $25,000 a pop. That's why I can't just up and replace this stuff. You got to have the antenna field. You got to have the highly sophisticated receivers. Everything has to operate wideband. There is no tuning in the normal concept. All the oscilloscope displays, and I don't know where. I saw one receiver on eBay that had the spectrum analyzer, $3,500. That's a steal. But I don't have $3,500 to spend on a receiver.